It's been 250 years since the Declaration of Independence was signed. Declaring was one thing, then they had to fight for it. Let's talk about some of your ancestors who were around at that time and whose lives became entwined. I've made some discoveries and dug up some interesting stories for you. When you see a name in red in the presentation, it is an ancestor of yours. Part 1, Denmark Family Drama. While the name sounds like a country, the research suggests it actually describes the family's ancient English profession. They were stockmen, and the Denmark name was a literal description of their ability to manage and mark livestock. First, we will meet William Batchelor Denmark, or we can call him WB. Other people did. Meet some of his family. His father was also William B. Denmark. His mother was Mourning Moye. You see here WB and his sister Abigail. Actually, we have no photos of Revolutionary War era ancestors at all, so we use our imagination. Mourning Moye had a cousin, John Moye. He had two daughters, Anna and Mary. So Abigail and WB were second cousins to Anna and Mary. When Anna was about 15, she had a baby with WB. He was about 16, 17, or 18. Then Mary, who was younger, had a baby with him when she was about 14. When Anna was about 21, they had another baby. When Mary was about 20, WB and Mary got married. The same year, he had children with both sisters. One of those children was your ancestor. John Moye and William Travis were fellow church leaders at Red Bank Baptist Meeting House, stepping up together during seasons without a regular pastor. Abigail Denmark, WB's sister, would eventually marry William Travis, which means John Moye watched WB Denmark father children with both of his daughters, and Abigail watched her brother do it from inside the same tight-knit community. One has to wonder whether WB was encouraged by family, by church, by the Moyes themselves to settle down and choose. He did marry. He just kept having children with both sisters for decades anyway. Part 2, the Revolution. 3 different war experiences. These men represent 3 very different experiences. This iconic painting called The Spirit of 76 captures the grit of the revolution, 3 generations marching through the smoke of battle. These musicians weren't just for show, they were the tactical voice of the army, signaling orders like advance or retreat over the deafening noise of musket fire. This is where we find WB in the war. WB lived this spirit. As a North Carolina militiaman, he was a part-time citizen soldier who answered the call for short tours to protect his home coastline. Beyond fighting, he was a man of means and a blacksmith who supplied the army with essential supplies. I thought Anna and Mary might get a break from having WB's children during the war years, but no, he had more children with both of them during that time. This famous picture is called the Sweet Potato Dinner. Here's a totally different scene of the war. This famous scene shows the swamp fox, General Francis Marion, inviting a British officer to a humble meal of roasted sweet potatoes while they negotiate a prisoner exchange in mossy, swampy South Carolina. The British realized they could never defeat a people willing to fight in the Low Country with nothing but the food they could forage. This was the theater that your ancestor Christopher Chambless fought in. When the British destroyed the regular American army in the South, men like Christopher kept fighting. Another of your Revolutionary War ancestors was also here, Spencer Bolton, but we'll save his story for another day. This is a famous picture of Valley Forge in 1777 to 1778, another totally different scene of the war. Valley Forge represents the Revolution's most grueling test. It was here that George Washington, supported by the Marquis de Lafayette and Casimir Pulaski, turned a starving army into professional force during the terrible winter of 1778 1778, and prepared for the final victory. For generations, we believed our ancestor was here with Washington and Lafayette and Pulaski. But the truth is a case of genealogical conflation. The Adam Jones who suffered at Valley Forge was actually our ancestor's cousin with the same name. Our direct ancestor, more often referred to as Reverend Adam Jones, was recognized by his contemporaries as a veteran, but was probably more of a local militiaman like W.B. was. Descendants of Reverend Adam Jones have gotten into the Daughters of the American Revolution based on the service record of Adam Jones at Valley Forge. But now that file is red flagged, and no more descendants can apply under Reverend Adam Jones without more proof of his particular war service. So, oops, wrong guy. Many family histories have the wrong information attached to our guy. I figured this out in the middle of this project. They say never let the truth get in the way of a good story. 3 Revolutionary War ancestors with very different experiences would have been a very good story, and connection with Washington and Lafayette and Pulaski would have been cool. But our Adam Jones has his own story, as you will see. So many people have been confused, but here's the real deal. Benjamin Jones and John Jones were brothers. They each had sons named Adam Jones. Ours ended up in Georgia as Reverend Adam Jones, and the Revolutionary War soldier with Washington at Valley Forge is the other Adam Jones. So, what was our Adam Jones doing during the Revolutionary War? It's very possible he was involved in a local militia during the war, as he was recognized by his contemporaries as a veteran. His father died during that time, and he was involved in selling the estate. He was married and had 4 children. More about Adam Jones. How is it with your soul? In North Carolina, Adam Jones was a Methodist class leader. He would have met with his group weekly to ask the central Methodist question, how is it with your soul? Methodism was originally a reform and renewal movement within the Anglican Church, the Church of England. He would encourage his group to do no harm, do good, attend to the ordinances of God. Part 3, more people to meet. Introducing William Travis. He was the husband of Abigail Denmark. He was a blacksmith, a silversmith, a justice of the peace, agricultural inspector, Baptist church leader, and captured by the British in North Carolina in the Revolutionary War. He was married to Abigail, sister of W.B. Denmark. These aren't your ancestors, but they are important to the story. Now introducing Susannah. Susannah is a daughter of W.B. Denmark and Anna, the sister he was not married to. Notice her name's in red. Technically, her last name would have been Moye, though her father always claimed her, and she may have used that last name. There is so much more, but right now, quiz time. Which ancestors met these famous people? First, let me tell you, Spencer Bolton is another ancestor of yours that was in the Revolutionary War. His story does not entwine with Denmark Jones and Chambless family, but I will briefly mention him here in relation to the famous people our ancestors met. Someday I will tell you his very interesting story. So, which ancestors met these famous people in the course of the war or in their life? General Nathaniel Greene, General George Washington, the Marquis de Lafayette, Casimir Pulaski, President Zachary Taylor, and General Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. W.B. Denmark definitely met General Nathaniel Greene at the Battle of Guilford Courthouse, and Spencer Bolton definitely also met him according to his pension application. General George Washington, the Marquis de Lafayette, Casimir Pulaski, that was the other Adam Jones. President Zachary Taylor, Mary Taylor Chambless, who I haven't introduced to yet, probably did meet him because they were cousins. General Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox, Spencer Bolton definitely met him, according to his pension application, and Christopher Chambless probably met him, according to where he was during the the Revolutionary War. Okay, we're moving on. Part 4, Migration After the War. Do you recognize this map? What's the red dot? The Treaty of Paris was signed September 3rd, 1783. After the Revolutionary War, Georgia was desperate to attract settlers. Georgia opened up the headright system and later land lotteries, cheap or free land to any Revolutionary War veteran from any colony if they moved there and cleared the land. Abigail Denmark and her husband William Travis decided to go to Georgia. It appears Susannah, your ancestor, who was 18 or 19 at the time, decided to go with them. Maybe she thought to leave a chaotic life behind. By now, there were about 16 or so children her father had had with her mother Anna and her mother's sister Mary. Let's grow her up a little for her new adventure in Georgia. So here they are in Georgia, Susannah and her aunt and uncle. They're at a location called Rocky Comfort Creek, a tributary of the Geechee River southwest of Augusta. William Travis got land there and became Justice of the Peace. Around 1784, Adam Jones, a widower, set out for Georgia with his 4 children and 3 brothers. He arrived at Long Creek near Augusta just as the community was taking its first steps toward organizing a Baptist church. He had his reservations. Theologically, he and the Baptists did not see eye to eye, and he was, by all accounts, genuinely terrified of immersion baptism. But there were no Methodists within reach, so Adam Jones joined in anyway, became a founding member of the church Reverend Vining was establishing, and in time was ordained a minister himself. Here's a quote from the History of the Georgia Baptist Association regarding Adam Jones and the thought of immersion baptism. He appears to have been afflicted with a singular kind of hydrophobia upon the subject. A cold shuddering took hold of the good man's feelings. Susannah and Adam most probably met because the Baptist church in Rocky Comfort was a sister church to Long Creek, established by the same Reverend Vining. Adam and Susannah married in 1786, the year Long Creek Baptist Church Meeting House was officially founded, and they began building their church and their family. Her Aunt Abigail and William Travis later moved to Long Creek and joined the church also. At their wedding, she was about 21 and he was about 31. So now we have Susannah and Adam together in Long Creek and Abigail and her husband William Travis not too far away on Rocky Comfort Creek. Long Creek Baptist Church kept extensive records of their monthly meetings. Many excerpts are online, and I can point you to some of those. There are extensive records showing a biracial church, detailed monthly minutes of new members, dismissed or excommunicated members, and discipline issues, and detailed membership lists. Black brothers and sisters, enslaved people with permission could become members of Long Creek through the same means as anyone else: baptism, experience, or letter. The church rolls named them only by first name, followed by a black brother or a black sister. Among those recorded were people enslaved by their own fellow congregants, including members of the Jones family. Here are some examples of some of the discipline issues that are mentioned in the minutes. Samuel Jones, Adam's brother, was excommunicated for dancing and keeping rude company. Adam Jr. was later expelled for the same thing. Charity, a black sister, was excommunicated for adultery after a charge was laid by Brother Spencer, another black member. Peter, a black brother, was cited for telling things that were not true, but was restored after making acknowledgments. Hezekiah Linscomb was excommunicated in 1788 for riding a race on the Sabbath and offering to commit a rape. Andrew Dannelly came forward because he had doubts on his mind regarding lying about his son's age to get extra draws in the land lottery. Was there a contradiction? They believed the souls of the black brothers and sisters mattered equally to God. They also believed that white Christians had the God-given right to control the bodies, labor, and futures of black people completely, for life. They convinced themselves, with the help of their churches, their neighbors, and their laws, that both these things could be true at once. Every one of your ancestors in this presentation participated in slavery. Particularly in the South, and particularly in Georgia cotton farming economy, which our ancestors were a part of, white Christian planters and their families convinced themselves that what they were doing had God's approval, or so they told each other. Did everyone think this way? People in their religious people in their religious communities? There were white Christian voices against slavery. Here's a quote from Francis Wayland, a Baptist leader in 1847. Slavery is a clear violation of love your neighbor as yourself. It is impossible to love your neighbor and simultaneously deny him personal freedom. John Wesley, founder of Methodism, said, perhaps you will say, I do not buy any Negroes. I only use those left to me by my father. So far as well. But is it enough to satisfy your own conscience? Had your father, have you, has any man living a right to use another as a slave? John Wesley would say, how is it with your soul? Your ancestor, Adam Jones, bequeathed enslaved people to his children in his will, including Charity, Bill, and Peter, who were named as black brothers and a black sister on the church rolls. Francis Wayland, quoted previously, believed slavery was inherently sinful, but he also acknowledged that for many otherwise godly men in the South, it had become a moral blind spot. We could speculate on what caused this blind spot. The wealth of free and cheap land, the cotton farming boom, which required so much labor. They had already told themselves that some people were at their disposal as they displaced the native peoples as they settled further and further west. Long Creek is a Southern Baptist Convention church, the group that broke away from Northern Baptists because the Northern-dominated mission boards refused to appoint slaveholders as missionaries. After the Civil War, some of the black members founded their own church about 2 miles away. Both churches are active today. The New Salem Baptist Church is an independent black missionary Baptist church. How do you think their theology may have differed over time? Okay, now WB is ready to go to Georgia to get land. His daughter Susannah was already there in Long Creek. They took the rest of Anna's kids and some of Mary's. Mary stayed in North Carolina with her and WB's 3 youngest children. Let's grow Anna up a bit for her new adventure in Georgia. So here they all are along the Ogeechee River from Savannah to Augusta. Flat Ford is near the town of Rocky Ford, which is pretty close to Savannah. By 1786, the Moye Denmark family members were establishing themselves in Georgia. W.B. Denmark got a land grant, so did his son Stephen Moye, using the name Stephen Denmark. W.B. and Stephen registered cattle brands. The family members bought and cleared a lot of land. Young people married into local families, and Anna had one more child. The large family left many descendants in the Chatham, Effingham, Bullock County area. I checked my high school yearbooks. There were 4 Denmarks in my high school while I was there. If you run into any Denmarks in the area, they're probably your cousins. Here's an image from a land grant that WB got on the Great Ogeechee River. He and his sons got several large continuous tracts as well as other land in Effingham, Bullock, Screven counties. Say hi to Lord Chesterfield. In 1793, WB's wife, Mary, in North Carolina, died. One of Mary's sons then came to Georgia to join the rest of the family. It appears WB married Anna then. In 1802, WB made a deed of gift of the Ogeechee property to his wife Anna and her children. does not mention Mary's children, even those living with them at the time. He also deeded enslaved people in that deed of gift. See her clutching her deed? It sort of served as a living will. This ensured his children by Anna would have something from him, not just his children from his marriage to Mary, who would automatically inherit from him. It also served to acknowledge these children as his sons and daughters. Here's a quote from the deed from William Denmark to Anna Denmark and others in Effingham County, Georgia. Unto Susannah Jones, my Negro wench called Rose. Nevertheless, the first child the said Rose shall bring after the date of these presents shall be given unto Lavisa Rester. The deed includes cows and calves and a feather bed to his wife, and Negroes to his daughters, including your ancestor Susannah, and land to his sons. He deeded Rose to our ancestor Susannah and declared that the first future child Rose would have would go to another of his daughters, Lavisa Rester. It's not a secret that some of WB's children using the Denmark name were not born from a legal marriage. Our ancestor Susannah is usually shown as Denmark in genealogies, but technically she would be Moye. Her brothers Redden and Malachai Moye had to get a legislative act declaring that they could use the name Denmark, which they had been using and by which they had made contracts and under which they had just acquired land in the deed from their father. Remember your other Revolutionary War patriot who fought rough in South Carolina, Christopher Chambless? Well, he was actually one of the founding members of Long Creek Baptist Church, too. Sometime after the church's founding, he moved back to South Carolina where his parents lived. When his father died, he, his mother Mary, and his wife Mary Taylor came with him back to Long Creek. The church minutes note when he and his wife were accepted as members by letter from their South Carolina church. His mother was Mary Chambless Sr. on the church rolls, and his wife was Mary Chambless Jr. She was said to be a cousin of President Zachary Taylor. Part 5, Growing the Family. William B. Denmark and Anna Moye Denmark, their daughter Susannah Denmark Jones and Reverend Adam Jones, Christopher Chambless and Mary Taylor Chambless. So how did all these people become your ancestors? In 1797, Reverend Vining of Long Creek Baptist Church died. Adam Jones, Susannah Denmark Jones, and Christopher Chambless were there with him at the beginning as founding members of the church. Mary Taylor Chambless was pregnant when he died. Christopher and Mary decided to name their baby after their pastor. They didn't name him Reverend Vining. They named him Jeptha for Reverend Jeptha Vining. We will come back to Jeptha Chambless soon. Meanwhile, more family news. After Anna, who was our ancestor Susannah's mother, died in 1809, WB got a passport from the governor of Georgia to pass through the Creek Nation to visit his daughter Susannah and his sister Abigail. Here comes WB. Do you think Susannah and Abigail sent for him to come after Anna died? Or do you think it was a surprise? Would he come and join the community and be retired grandpa to the Jones children? Great-grandpa to the toddler Jeptha Chambless? He was about 70 years old when he made this trip. He decided to stay. He bought land. He did not join Long Creek Baptist Church, where his son-in-law preached and his daughter and sister attended. In 1813, he married Mary Cockram, a young woman who was on the church rolls but was excommunicated around that time. He was over 70 years old, 73 or 74 or so, and his new wife was in her late 20s or early 30s, it appears. In 1820, we're looking at the 1820 census. The gang's all here now. They're all neighbors in Warren County showing up on the same page of the 1820 census. There are details here regarding their households, including their slaves. William Denmark, Adam Jones Sr., and Christopher Chambless. On May 13th, 1821, there was a double tragedy. Susannah Denmark Jones and her father, William B. Denmark, both died in her home on the same day. What happened? Maybe they were quarantined there together and both succumbed to yellow fever. Susannah's children lost their mother and grandfather on the same day. This image represents Jeptha, the son of Christopher and Mary Chambless, and Susan, a daughter of Susannah and Reverend Adam Jones. They grew up in that community in the shadow of that church. They were the first generation born in Georgia. Guess what? They grew up and they married each other, and thereby joined the Denmark Jones family with the Chambless family. They named their first son Christopher Columbus Chambless. They named their first daughter Susan. They named their second son Jeptha Columbus Chambless. This chart shows the Moye Denmark Jones family being joined to the Taylor Chambless family. You see WB and Anna, their daughter Susannah Denmark, married Adam Jones, and their daughter is Susan Jones. You see Christopher Chambless and Mary Taylor. They had their son Jeptha Chambless, named after the pastor. When Susan and Jeptha married, their first son was named Christopher Columbus Chambless. Their second son was named Jeptha Columbus Chambless. And their first daughter was Susan Chambless. Look, they use Columbus as a middle name twice. Jeptha and Susan choosing to name their first child Christopher Columbus indicates to me that Jeptha's father was named Christopher Columbus also. Naming the second son Jeptha Columbus indicates to me that our first Jeptha was also Jeptha Columbus. Jeptha named a child after his father and named a child after himself. So this Jeptha is Jeptha Columbus Chambless Jr., and the first daughter was named after her mother, Susan. So Jeptha Columbus Chambless Jr. married Sarah Ann Edwards, and they followed a similar naming pattern. They name a son Christopher Columbus Chambless and a daughter Susan Chambless. Their first child, whose life dates are 1844 to 1845, was referred to as Lum. Where is their Jeptha Columbus Chambless III? I suspect that child called Lum was the Jeptha Columbus Chambless of his generation. He did not grow up to pass down the name. But his sister, Susan Chambless, who married our ancestor Millage Dilson Tatum, brought that name forward from the Chamblesses to the Tatums and named the first Jeptha Columbus Tatum. These people are some of your people. Their stories are part of your story too. Here's the curtain call for our main characters. But we won't forget the church that was the background of their community.